When I first started being a founder, I would have said an acquisition's not the outcome I wanted. I think every founder, when they start the company, especially ones that want to raise venture capital, the dreams to ring the bell in New York.
Why was this the right move for you, Nick, and the company?
I was going out for our Series A, and then I also was starting to have conversations with Patrick. For a while, I was convinced to go out at it alone until I had gotten deeper and deeper with the Clarify guys. We kind of were going at it from two different sides. So to put them both together, it just accelerates us well beyond what's in the market today. Why don't we do this together, go raise 100 mil and win the market together? So now going through it with you, I can't think of a better outcome.
Nick, really excited to have you here on the first pitch, man. So, I mean, we're 2 weeks out from effectively a acquisition where we've joined forces now
Yes.
between Seam and Clarify. So excited to have you on the pod and talk a little bit more about your journey as a founder and what brought us together to kind of work on this new version of Clarify. So it might be helpful if you want to just do a quick introduction for the audience so they get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it's funny because we've known each other for a long time now, and it almost feels like this was meant to be, almost 4 or 5 years ago. So it's fun to actually join forces here. So yeah, my name's Nick. Nick, pleasure to meet you all. I was the founder and CEO of a company called Seam AI. Really, our whole goal was to find in-market buyers through data and help our customers generate more pipeline. So I think like when we think about the cool stuff you guys have been doing at Clarify, which I've been a huge fan of, watching from the outside, is like CRMs have typically kind of been places where you manage revenue, not drive revenue. So I think like when we were looking at the future of like what this world can become, especially through agents, it made a lot of sense for us to join forces in kind of like a 1+1 = 6 capacity here.
And Shamrat, you've obviously driven revenue at many organizations and have built your own go-to-market tooling. So yeah, excited for you to kind of jump in and ask the hard questions on like why this makes sense from an acquisition standpoint. We've talked a lot about obviously fundraising journeys with different companies over time, and obviously two great companies coming together here to go after kind of a relatively big market. So yeah, can you get your investor perspective, yours as an operator's perspective on having used these tools in the past, and effectively why the 1+1 = 3 story here with now Clarify and
Six. Technically, it's six. So
Nah,
we
like
got.
I went big there. You went small. I went big.
we didn't say one plus
Yeah,
one equals
no,
10.
Nick, it's
Yeah,
a pleasure. Excited to hear. I'm not as privy to the story of Seam, so
yeah,
look forward to hearing how it all started and how we got here.
sure. Yeah, it was a journey, as every one of these are, right?
Well, maybe we can start from there from the beginning. Like, tell us, how I know you're at Okta, you
Mhm.
decided to leave, and then Seam became the step in the journey.
Yeah, so little bit of background for me. Was lucky enough to join kind of an early Okta back in the day. And when I say early, it's funny because we were doing about 50 to 75 mil in ARR already, which felt early in compared to now. But really spent 5 or 6 years building out a lot of the go-to-market tooling and systems, and then the overall data platform that we had at Okta. So split, a lot of time between revenue operations and data engineering. And I think like one thing that Okta did incredibly, incredibly well that helped them scale is we had a great hold on all the go-to-market data across all those different systems. Okay. So I kind of sat at this intersection of like we had all these business users that needed data to grow, and me being the data engineer that gave them the data to grow. So I think like I had a lot of good learnings there. Now my two co-founders also came from Okta of Seam. One's name is Jose. He came over via an acquisition through a company called Stormpath, which was like an Auth0 compete at the time. And then Mick, who is our more of like our go-to-market co-founder, was an SDR through Enterprise AE there. So we kind of just like lived the life of going from 50 mil in ARR to over a billion pre-IPO to post-IPO, and took a lot of those learnings and kind of built Seam. So really was the inception of the company.
Yeah, and it's funny, you called yourself a data engineer back then. Would you still consider yourself a data engineer? I mean, like we talk a lot about go-to-market engineering now in our category. Like how would you best describe kind of your role and background now?
Like it's funny because like everyone is talking about context right now. Like if you're going to win the agent space, you have to have the best and most context. And when I hear context, I hear data. And when I hear data in go-to-market land, I think disparate systems, because historically revenue operations people have been buyers of solutions to their problems, not builders of the solutions. So it's a really funny question when you frame it like that, Patrick. I think that like we're almost all data engineers now, and even the go-to-market engineer's job is to stitch data together so that you can, grow and generate pipeline. So yes, I haven't coined myself as a data engineer in a while, but now that you put it like that, I definitely feel like I'm doing that here still.
Well, so tell us about how you, Jose, and Mick kind of came together. Was it over a course of a year where you guys were like, coming with various ideas, or was it just this idea of what became Seam kind of happened fairly quickly?
So we had some great founders at Okta, Freddie Karras and Todd McKinnon, and I think they distilled a couple things into us when we really early on. And I kind of asked founders this too, as I kind of go like, well, I'll actually frame this to you guys. What percent of success is split between founder market fit, an idea originally when you're evaluating founders? So like, which one in terms of priority do you go after? Big markets? Is it all about founder market fit? Do you care mostly about the idea? Somrat, what do you look?
I mean, like I focus on founder first and foremost, but second is like, what is the insight that the founder has on a market? And that's the ideas, evolve, things kind of change, but it starts with the founder and the market. But there has to be, for me at least, I care about the insight that the founder has about a market. And usually it's derived from some sort of personal experience.
Sure. Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like Freddie was pretty funny in how he framed it. He's like, give the best founder that's right for a market, a really big market, and they're going to figure out the right idea in that market, right? It's based on kind of first principles. So I'd say that when I left Okta, I originally left with Mick, my first co-founder, who we became friends with just working in the go-to-market org for many years. And we started a different company. It was actually called Free Flow at the time. It was very short-lived. This is actually how I met Patrick. It was a virtual office during the middle of COVID, which there were a handful of these at the time. I think like when I was thinking about why a virtual office, we were like, wait, we love the sales floor at Okta. We called together. We generated pipeline together, but that all went away during the COVID time. So we were like, can we kind of recreate that environment? And at the time, Zoom was a $100 billion company. We're like, okay, big market, check. And then I kind of let the founder market fit thing not really go. And I think like from a virtual office standpoint, that idea, similarly to like the metaverse, like this was hyped and then dissipated out. I had no business building remote communication and collaboration software coming from a heavy sales-led org like Okta. So it was like basically building a Slack 2.0. So Mick and I went and started that company. It didn't last very long, about 6 to 8 months. And then we were like, okay, like let's go back to where we have a really great founder market fit profile. And that's when we founded Signal at the time, which later became Seam. And then, that is when Jose joined us as well. We decided to bring on Jose during that process.
And Nick, what was your process? So like many founders go through pivots, right? You start with a unique idea, you quickly decided, hey, this wasn't it. What was your process of making that decision where it's like, hey, moving from Free Flow to Seam, what did that journey look like for you? Any advice you give other founders that are potentially thinking about doing something similar?
Yeah, I love the age-old adage that's like, first-time founders care about products, second-time founders care about distribution. I think that we had been beaten into our heads that the distribution drives growth and like revenue is king through our Okta days. And the thing I wasn't seeing at the virtual office was powerful, strong distribution and retention. So we kind of let that guide the light of like how quickly we were growing. What was our retention metrics when someone would get in the virtual office floor? Were people moving back to the office? Was the market shifting? So we started to indicate on like those kind of three big things again. Like market wasn't holding in the way that we thought it was. The idea wasn't sticky in the way that we thought it was. And then we weren't the right people to be able to go after that space and kind of wait it through. And then it became super clear, like, hey, if we want to be a venture scale business, we're gonna have to make a change here.
What was the initial kind of pitch of Signal? I guess it was kind of and then you guys went through a rebrand of Seam. Is it what we know of it today, or was it something very, very different?
I'd say parts of it. There's a lot of things that we got right and wrong. I think that the thing that we got right, like the thesis that we went and pitched Bessemer when we raised our seed round. Okay. My vision is that, business operations folks, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, they were always buyers of solutions to their problems. Okay. So like, I think by the time I left Okta, we had 20 or 30 go-to-market tech systems. Like we had something for product-led product, data. We had something for outbound. We had 4 or 5 data providers. We had the CRM. We had a different tool for marketing automation. So really my thesis was a couple things. One, AI was going to enable the business folks to start being builders, I think, in the future, which I think, looking back, has kind of wildly played out to be right. And then my other thesis is that the data, for them to be builders, the data needed to be aggregated really well together. So we had to go connect all those systems and bring the data together in this unified force. So my actual first pitch to Bessemer was like, I'm going to make every, business operations folks a data practitioner, and we're going to give them the keys to the data castle. Okay. And so what we built in the hood
Was that like a BI kind of sort of
yeah,
mirror?
it was like a
Okay.
chat with your data type tool. Like we
Okay.
connected to all the go-to-market systems. We aggregated all the data together. And then the first use case that we built was like this chat with your data back in 2024. Okay, 2023. And it let them like build, reporting, dashboarding, analytics, automations, kind of back then. I think that what Bessemer saw was like, okay, great founders in a market that they know really well. I think they're solving the core problem, which is the data issue. We don't know if the use case is right. So when I say that like what I think we got right versus wrong from that original pitch, I think that the data aggregation, which really matters from a context perspective, was right. I think the text to SQL use case was wrong on top of the data. So what happened next, kind of thing? And this is like a span over, let's call it 12 to 18 months. We started looking at, what people were querying the data for. And it was a lot of reps being basically like, hey, what accounts should I prioritize on? Is there any new hires? And they were trying to get this like flywheel going of basically, where do I spend my time selling? So we kind of came to the conclusion of, hey, instead of just creating this like endless thing that they can go query, right? Can we start to get focused on a really specific use case? So I think a lot of founders go through initially as well. They have this big, broad idea, but really to take it in market, you have to get very specific. So we started to build out the tooling around, okay, can we bring in data to show you who's in market, who's ready to buy? Are there specific signals that each customer needs? Can we do custom signals? And it ended up becoming kind of what Seam is today, which is more of an ABM style, buying intent platform.
Did you just kind of reflecting on that sort of journey of like what I refer to as like a horizontal kind of insights, AI insights platform, to being more sort of persona specific. When did you all make that sort of focus transition? And was it a hard thing to go do, or was it just very obvious based off of the insights you're gathering from your early, customer conversations?
I'd say both. We made that pivot around almost a year ago. So around August of 2025, from like being this horizontal platform to a very like persona specific, selling to marketers and SDRs and doing a very specific thing. Right. I think that what was hard about it initially is like, there's a great line, like, be strict on the vision, loose on the details, by Jeff Bezos. And when you go found a company, like, you're trying to build something world changing. So you're thinking it at, 10 years down the line, what does this look like as a horizontal platform at scale? And that's honestly the story you're kind of selling to investors early on, is like, why is this going to be a $10 billion, $100 billion company? So in my head, I'm always thinking horizontal platform, we're going to replace Salesforce, HubSpot, and all of them. So to distill it down, you can't go to market like that, right? You can't sell to every persona. You can't sell to every ICP. So you actually have to get really narrow to go to market initially to get that $0 to first $1 million. So it was a little, from a founder and thinking visionary, is hard. Right. I had to be like, okay, I have this vision, but I have to focus on this wedge to build out distribution. Now, from the customer side, it actually was very easy. They were asking for these things. All I had to do was, sit back and say, okay, they want me to build X. They're paying me X. This ICP looks like it's growing really quickly. Let's build more for that ICP and align ourselves with the customer, because ultimately, like, there's never been a discrepancy between long-term customer value and the success of the company. So I think personally, from the founder perspective, you're always thinking about what it looks like 10 years, but early on from a distribution, you got to get narrow.
One of the things, Nick, you've been, working together now for a few weeks. Like, how would you think about articulating that to a company like Clarify? Like, what challenges and opportunities do you see for us when it comes to, we have a fairly ambitious vision, as well as you can see, and, we work with a variety of different ICPs now. Like, what are the things that you see that we can be improving on?
Great question. And I'm going to start with what I think you did really well already. So one of the reasons why I think that we came together is I know most of the players in the space. I'm not here to talk about, other options, but one of the things that really impressed me about Patrick and Andre Andre and team was the focus on the product from such an early stage. I think that you guys have one of the best product orgs I've ever seen at an early stage. Your ability to ship quickly, how much you built in a very short amount of time. Being at the company, you've enabled what you call the software factory. Anyone can ship code to prod in Clarify. It's crazy. You can be a go-to-market engineer, you can be a designer, you can be a sales rep, and Patrick has set this up in a way where you can push code into Clarify. So one, that was very exciting. I think the thing that what I'm trying to work on with Patrick right now is that CRMs, like, you can sell to anyone. Like, I walked into the Y in the Presidio in San Francisco, and they were checking me in with Salesforce. Like, who knew the YMCA can use Salesforce as a CRM? So I think, like, the big thing that we're really focused on now with Clarify is like, okay, we can sell to anyone and we can build any feature. That is a blessing and a curse. Who do we go after first? Is it down market? Is it up market? Are we going to be, more PLG? Are we trying to create virality in the product? Are we trying to trigger some sales lead so we can get some higher ACV deals? Like, I think our problem is not the opportunity, it's the focus, and we're gonna do a great job of that over the next couple of months.
One of the things that I was curious about is in what was the pitch you all did to Bessemer? Did you like pitch a lot of VCs? I mean, I know that there was always this like, let's go, reimagine Tableau as it's a good sort of byline that has always existed. I don't think most folks like to use Tableau as a BI interface at the time. But curious how you went about the pitch. What did you, if you reflect back on that time, what would you think you'd have done differently as you think about, founders that are listening in that are pitching you VCs?
Yeah.
Or did it just all was it, or did you have like unique circumstance where you knew the Bessemer partner and it's like all happened?
No, not at all. Actually, I got introduced to Bessemer through an angel of ours from the Okta days. So I didn't know any of the partnership over there prior. I think a couple things. Like, one, founders always want to know, like, do I go talk to 100 VC? Do I cast a wide net or do I cast a narrow net? And I think from the seed round, I think what we did really well was actually cast a more narrow net. So I met with actually 10 to 12 funds over a span of like 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. I didn't do the whole like, give me 1,000 people, let me talk to you over Zoom. Second thing I did really well is they were all in person. Like, I really tried to get to know the people that I was going to partner with. Okay. Then I think what you're hinting at a question is there were a lot of text to SQL ideas back then. And I think that what I did a good job of, and then I'll also share kind of what I would do differently. But I think what I did a really good job of is I never made it about the product in the early stage. Like you said at the beginning of the call, it's like, what's the unique insight? Who's the founders? What market are they going after? What could this become? And I really leaned into this idea that, people were going to become builders on the go-to-market teams. They weren't going to be, just buying products all the time anymore. And I think that they really could see that vision. Okay. And now fast forward 2.5 years, I think that vision's played out. Like, most revenue operations teams are using Cloud Code on top of their data, and they're building now. So I think we were right. I think that I did not make it about the current application of the product is what I think I did really well. Now, what I would do differently is like, I probably would have iterated more. I probably would have given up. Every founder says this. I probably would have given up that initial use case and pivoted more quickly. I waited too long to pivot, but it's kind of like the old adage of like, it's like, no one's ever regretted firing someone too fast, right? Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit as well. Like, what were the signals that you think that you saw in retrospect that would have caused you to be like, hey, this isn't it, I need to find something else to do? Because people fall in love with their own ideas, right? We all assume that we're all assume that we're smart individuals. So
or we always feel like, hey, with more time, like if the market will realize what we're doing.
I would actually describe it as that. Like, I think someone recently told me too, like, can be the right investment. The right investment at the wrong time is a bad investment. Time is such an element of this. And, back then, yeah, you could see the world shifting this way. I didn't know it'd take 2 to 3 years to play out, but I think I held on too long to the idea that this would happen. And I was right about what was going to happen in the future, not enough about what was happening today, what was happening with the data, what my customers were asking for. Yeah, I was a little too strict on what it would become at a given. And nowadays I'm almost like, as a founder, like towards the end of this, I was almost like too quick to pivot. I'm like, oh, this isn't working. I didn't even give it enough time to breathe. So it is really the art of being a founder. When do you do certain things? And a lot of times, like, you want data, everyone wants data, but we don't have it, right? So pivot is one of those things that is a tough thing to do.
When you kind of made this transition from this AI interface for kind of customer interactions to kind of ABM, Tell us about that specific moment. And we're like, hey, we got to stop this thing. How did you kind of rally the team around it? Was it obvious? Was it, because, you guys, it's not just about you, it's about the people around you that, have followed suit to what you were selling. Um, and talks about that transition.
Yeah, I have this saying that as soon as you start the company and hire your first employee, it's no longer your company anymore. It really becomes the team's company, right? And so I think that what we did a good job of culturally is saying like, hey, we have these bets and we think these things are right, but we don't know if they're going to be right. So, but I know the thing that we're always going to do is listen to the customer and follow in the direction of like where business and revenue is coming from. So actually, for me, it was a little easier to rally the team around it because everyone was always very involved in what the customers were asking for and what they needed and all that stuff. So my team was actually a little quicker to pivot. I think what you also need to realize is that when you raise capital, which most people don't know, is like you also get something, you get a board and that there's reporting up even as a founder. And I think that what I did incorrectly, if I could go back and do this again, I had come to the decision in my head to pivot with the team before I had come to the decision with my board to pivot with the team, if that makes sense. So because we were boots on the ground and we were feeling this every day, we're like, oh, this is it, we're going to go in a different direction. But then I had brought the board in a little bit too late on that discussion, and in retrospect I shouldn't have. I should have brought them in much earlier, and it slowed us down, so we couldn't pivot as quickly. So I think that like one of the big learnings from that situation is, like I said, like as soon as you start the company and you bring on other people, it's no longer your company. You need to bring everybody involved, and that means down, yes, to your team and what they're working on, but it also means up and the people that have given you money and bet on you before.
I want to talk about I'd love to talk about ABM and all of the amazing things you guys built in the last year at Seam. Before we do that, I'd love to just get your perspective of what do you think is the future of BI? You obviously spent a lot of time on it. Obviously a lot of folks are kind of using Claude to like get the insights, and I'm sure you're connected with a bunch of these data ops people. Like, how are you thinking about where the market's shifting? Was it just timing? It's like, hey, I think if you were to start Seam today, would it have picked up? Or you're like, oh man, just the behavior of the customer is ultimately changing as well. I mean, obviously now, MCPs didn't even exist. I don't know when it was officially launched, but it was probably after you guys made the
Pivoted.
transition. Yeah.
Is the question like, was the
Like, yeah,
original idea
do you think
right?
Tableau is going to be,
Yeah,
having spent a lot of time on this,
right.
how do you think BI is going to look in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. And I think a lot about certain things. Like, first is like everyone is in what's called the context game right now. And I think that naturally, the players of old, Tableaus, Lookers, and some of the new age ones I won't mention, they were always just visualization on top of data. They never owned the actual data stack itself. Okay. So they're actually quite easy to swap in and out, right? Like the data gets stored in a Snowflake or in a Databricks, right? And then they visualize on top. So I think that they are in trouble because they've never really owned the underlying data stack. And it's actually quite easy now to build out visualization. I know, Patrick, we have been really excited about using artifacts internally at Clarify. So it's very easy to sit on top of the data with MCP, query it with Claude, and generate your own dashboard now. So I think like that one's pretty ripe to get disrupted, is what I would say.
But you're saying like the core thing is that having closer ties to the context is kind of a critical piece, because if it's easier to switch between one visualization layer and the other, you're like, well, what is the moat in that regards? Got it, makes sense. So tell me about what it was the first version of Seam kind of ABM play. Like, what was the first kind of problem that you were looking to solve as you were kind of transitioning from the insight capability to something specifically ABM specific?
Yeah, and I'll piggyback two things off of kind of the data conversation here as well, because it kind of plays into BI a little bit here. So we built this great data aggregation product, and then when we looked at some of the incumbents in the space, ABM is effectively looking at an account taking all the data you have and trying to determine where they are in a buying life cycle. Are they unaware of you? Are they aware of you? Have they directly engaged with you and your product? Are they in a buying life cycle with you already? It's essentially the funnel above the funnel. So what we figured out was from talking to customers is because we were connected to, product data, third-party data, your marketing data, your sales data, it was very easy for us to get an activity timeline of all the interactions that each account was doing with you. Okay. So by aggregating the data, we got to look at, where, if Clarify came to our website and visited our pricing page or clicked on an ad on LinkedIn, or Patrick made a social post about, trying to find intent, like we were able to give you that activity timeline, which was really great to score an account from an ABM perspective. Then to piggyback off our BI discussion there, we looked at some of the incumbents in the space. 6sense and Demandbase have been the big ones over the last, let's call it 10 years. And we looked at what the product was, and it was wildly just a dashboard. And so when you go into 6sense or Demandbase, there's charts around like this one's hot, this one's not, here's all the interactions. And we said, okay, one, we have the data aggregated, but two, where's the real innovation here? And the real innovation is that agents now can go act on these things. So we actually took the ABM layer and we connected it to the action layer. And we let you start to run campaigns, source contacts, deploy ads, whatever it may be. So we took the data and then we added agents to connect the action. And now you had like the full cycle of pipeline generation. We saw a data point, an agent acted on it. That became a deal. That deal closed. So I think like back to your BI point, they were easy to displace because they were just the visualization layer once we had the data.
Did you sell like your first customer first and then said, okay, let's go build around the business kind of problem that your first kind of design partner had? Or did you sort of say, hey, we kind of had an articulation of what we wanted to go do, and then you guys built it and then you kind of sold it out to market?
What was funny is that the text to SQL product was actually good bait for this. Like people were trying to query this stuff within the text to SQL thing that we had built, like which account is opening our emails and engaging with our ads. So we kind of followed our early customers with the text to SQL product, and we just built out, functionality there. So really it was all around like, we were lucky to have some early customers and then just follow the scent a little bit there.
What, one thing that is interesting as you guys were transitioning to as I hear how it all played out is like, and a lot of founders just get kind of fixed on their product and their strategy. And when you went on that journey, did you seek advice? I mean, like obviously there's advice around you, but ultimately you have to make a decision. It's like, and it's hard because you're just like, man, I don't know, man. Maybe if I just work for this for another 3-6 months. Was it the team that was pulling you? Was it these early kind of sort of super users of Seam that were kind of saying, man, I'm trying to do this. Like I need this specifically. How did it all manifest itself to kind of get to the first version of the AI-native ABM platform?
Really great question. And a couple different layers here. Like one of my principles is truly as a founder, strict on the vision, loose on the details. Okay. Like you got to know what market you're going after and going, but like how you get there is going to change. It's natural. Like, I don't know. At this point, you've probably had enough of us on this podcast to hear the same story over again, that the initial idea doesn't look like what they're doing today at all. And so you have to be able to be flexible and wiggling around. Now, everyone has their own, I'd say, internal barometer of what their indicators on are wiggling around. And Patrick, before I get too far, I'll let you ask a question. I was lucky enough to have a really great advising team around me between angels and investors, so bouncing ideas off them there. We had a really great early set of design partners and customers in the mid-market that were telling me like, we're not going to pay for anything if you're not going to do this. And then I had a team that like I think that we hired really, really well, that understood that they were going to write code and then we were going to throw it out, kind of thing. And I think one thing that we also were really good at was when you start with something and you pivot, and I'm going to go off on a little side here, you potentially what
you're less precious.
Yeah, exactly. I'm less precious about it. But we had 20 customers and a couple 100,000 in ARR with that text to SQL product. Not all of them wanted the ABM product. Really only about half of them did. So we went through this process of essentially firing our customers, right? So I let go of a bunch of revenue to then go into the other market and grow well past what we would have ever done with the text to SQL product.
It's admirable to what you all did, because it's easy to just kind of stay the path and say, hey, we have some customers that want it, we just need to get in front of more. Like that, there's this classic like we just need to get to more folks. It's a marketing problem. And so I appreciate you kind of sharing that, because I think a lot of founders, especially in this market where it's just like, do I have something or do I evolve? And it's probably a conversation I have with founders all the time right now. It's just like, hey, you got to a few hundred K in ARR. Is that enough? Right. Especially as the bar for fundraising has increased and what is expected in the market these days. So
What I can say is that product market fit feeling of like, when it's absolutely the truth. So that was something that I tried to indicate on as well, of like, okay, we're at a couple hundred K, but like, is the market pulling this thing out of me? And the answer was no. I was kind of stuffing it into the market for a while. And when you're feeling friction, it's sometimes time to diverge, right? Especially in tech.
And what did it feel like? So you made that divergence. You then got the ABM platform. You had great marquee logos there as well. Like, what did that experience feel like different? Like how, if you got product market fit, that's it's a great saying specifically in Silicon Valley. But like, what did it feel like for you? Like, how did you were like, hey, there's something here more than what we had in kind of the text to SQL?
Yeah. For me, it was just like the early indicator was pipe gen, which was really fun. So back in November or December, I was probably generating, we switched in August, and then it took us a little bit to get going until November. And back in November, I think we had our first $250,000 pipe gen month, but then December, which is historically a slow month due to the holidays, we had over $1 million in pipe gen in a single month. So it like accelerated quickly for us. And what I can say is that it's almost like there's two sides of product market fit. Everyone talks about the product piece, like the product is a solution to the problem that your customer has. There's also kind of like a message market fit. Like you can have the right thing, but be telling the market about it in the wrong way, and they won't find you or discover or use that thing. So I think that we made two shifts. One is that we switched into ABM, but two, we started to position ourselves as the AI native ABM solution, similar to how, Patrick, you're the AI native CRM. And it just went off in people's heads. I'm looking for demand base in 6 cents. There's got to be a cool new one out there. Boom. They found us. So you really do feel it. And it was fun for sure.
I'm excited about this partnership that you all are kind of coming together. Tell me about how you guys met. I mean, was you guys at a bar or something like that? Was it like a go-to-market event, or was it something less sexy?
Let me take this one, Patrick, because you just did great things and I found you. And so back in 2021, when my co-founder and I, Mick, first originally left to start the virtual office, we were looking for angels. Okay. And Patrick was hot off the bat of a successful acquisition with his first company iteratively. So we got connected with him, and then we pitched Patrick. And at the time, like when you first leave and you're doing sale, like a VC pitch is very different than a sales pitch. So we were very immature in how we presented ourselves. And Patrick, looked at the pitch and he was just like, I'm interested in this space, right? I'm definitely interested in this space, but here's a list of 10 things that you guys didn't do right, and like how I would start to frame this. So it was funny because we went to him for money, but we got advice. But that advice was so great that it like set us on a completely different path and how we did it. So I would almost call it like I met Patrick through like almost like an advisement and mentorship kind of capacity, and then we stayed close over the last couple of years. I don't know how it looked from your side though, Pat.
No, I mean, I remember, yeah, it was like, for me, like post acquisition, I was like just trying to give back to as many people as I can. We had a ton of help back in the early days. So I was in your shoes in 2019 talking to a bunch of people that had been there and done it. So like after we exited, I really wanted to kind of pay it forward, and the years of learnings I had as a founder. So yeah, no, it was a good experience. And then it's funny, I remember, you obviously joined our Slack, and it's you can still see some of the conversations that we were having even in the Slack channel about the business. And so I have a ton of respect for what you guys did, and obviously
I think the first thing, like Somrat, it was pretty funny. Like the first thing I did when I got in the Clarify Slack was search CMEI to see if they'd been like what nice or bad things they were saying about it, And
well, I'm curious about this because like so how often would you guys meet? So because I feel like, so we spend a lot of time with founders. Building relationships is important, but you're trying to prioritize your customers, you're trying to price your team, your products, and then you're having external conversations. Like how often would you guys, because I always think that founders should be investing in relationships that could be downstream partners. Obviously you had a relationship in the beginning, but we are where we are, and it's an exciting partnership in the making here. Like how did it sort of like, was Pat like all over your ass like for the last 4 years, like, hey man, you should just come along and be part of this once Clarify kind of got started, or was it a little more organic?
You want me to answer this
Go
one?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so uh, I'll talk very specifically about this, but I'll give some more general advice around this. Like, I think Pat and I, both separately, what we've done a very good job of from a network perspective is getting to know all the founders within our space, whether they're competitors or not. I think that there's this like inclination that when you start a company and someone's competing with you, and not to say that Patrick and I were competitive, but more just talking more broadly, that like you shouldn't get to know them, screw those guys or those girls. Like, I'm going to keep my distance. And I think Pat and I have done a good job of keeping our ear to the ground and knowing everybody in the space. Now, when you know everybody in the space, you constantly are keeping up with them. So I'm watching what Patrick's doing from the outside. I'm trying to take some of the things that he's doing, apply it to my team that I'm like. I'm trying to look at the messaging in the market. How do we fit in alongside Patrick, et cetera. So I think what I would define it as is we were playing alongside in these different bubbles for a while. And then as markets evolve, which they do, they tend to consolidate in some ways. And then it just started to make sense right now that like, why does intent and signal and information about the customer and your ability to go sell to those customers, why does that sit outside the CRM? Like, why are these two separate tools? And then that sparked the conversation, and we are where we are today. But I've always, from an acquisition perspective, I've always seen the good ones be done through many years, not in a very defined process at the end. So I think, yeah, we played alongside for a while, and then
For the founders that are listening, because founders like, oh, it's not, that's not my priority. What
Right.
do you have to say to founders that say that's not my priority?
What, the acquisition?
No, just like building relationships, getting to know the other players, and investing some time in
Yeah.
networking. I mean, it seems like it came natural to you, but there's a lot of founders that are, thinking, I got to focus on my customers and
Yeah.
my product, and I don't need, that's a waste of my time.
At the end of the day, the CEO's job is to keep the company funded and have the right people in seat to help it grow. And the only way that you can keep your company well funded and have the right people surrounded at all times is to go network. So any founder that says it's not my job to meet the people in the space or understand what's going on, it is absolutely their job. Is one thing I would push back on. And then the second thing is you never know what's going to happen. Markets change. Like in the middle of your company, they could launch GPT, and all of a sudden there's an AI chatbot that never existed before, right? So things don't, like, you can do your best to forecast and guess, especially in this market, what's going to look like in 12 to 18 months, but you don't know. So when markets shift and things change, like, you're going to want to rely on people and those around you. And so I think it's the number one thing they should be doing, honestly.
I know the dream of raising capital, getting to the next financing. It's always the aspiration for folks and that want to start a venture backed company. Was there why was this the right move for you, Nick, and the company? And tell me about the vision that you kind of are excited about. And obviously you want to come back to you, Pat, and say, hey, you made this happen. What do you see? And curious how this kind of comes together.
Yeah, this is a great question, because I think every founder, when they start the company, especially ones that want to raise venture capital, the dreams to ring the bell in New York. You know what I mean? Like, that is the goal. It's like you want to take a company public, you want to build an enduring business, and you want to go after really big problems. Okay. I think for me, the two main incumbents that are very disruptible right now, I don't know if it's worth naming names, but everybody knows them at this point. It's Salesforce and HubSpot in our world. Okay. And so I think most of us are focused on how do we create the new version of that in some way, shape, or form. Okay. And I was actually thinking about, I was going out for our Series A, and then I also was starting to have conversations with Patrick and some other folks. And I think like I had to really ask myself, did it make more sense, better for us to go at it alone or to go at it together with another partner? And for a while, I was convinced to go at it alone, until I had gotten deeper and deeper with the Clarify guys. And then it immediately became more sense to go after it together. Because I think that, and Patrick can talk a little bit about the pitch here, but it's like the glaring gap for CRM forever has been what data and context is inside that CRM and how does it get populated. Okay. And we kind of were going at it from two different sides. So to put them both together, it just accelerates us well beyond what's in the market today. And back to my initial 1+1=6, like it became very clear to me, no, I don't need to go raise 20 or 50 mil. And Patrick doesn't need to go raise 20, 50 mil separately and then butt heads. Like, why don't we do this together, go raise 100 mil and win the market together. So it really became a better together story, in my opinion.
Pat, I want to ask you. I mean, obviously, you've gone through an acquisition, so you've been on the other side of this. You know, as you approached, and you and Nick had this conversation. Like, what was important to you as you were engaging with Nick? You know, because you were on the other side a few years ago.
Correct. I mean, it's first and foremost is the team, right? Like at the end of the day, it's like, to the point that Nick was talking about earlier, right? Like relationships matter. And so like I spend a lot of my time meeting with other founders who are working on businesses that are tangentially related or can be in completely separate categories, right? But it's like for us and as a company, like the strength of your relationships, the strength of the network matters so much as founders. So definitely I invest a kind of ton of my time in that. And part of that time is in Nick. But then again, when looking at any acquisition for a company, whether or not we're being acquired, but by Amplitude back in the day, it's like the team, like who am I, like what company am I joining? Was the decision I was making back then? Is it the right team? And then same thing now with us partnering together with Seam is like, hey, what is their team? And a lot of it's like, hey, do they have the right context and knowledge? Do they operate similarly to us? Or are they raising the bar when it comes to the overall quality of the team that we have here as well? So like a lot of that stuff was really important to us. A lot of it, I'd say less so, even product, right? Because like now in the cost of AI or in this AI world, the cost of writing software is going to zero. So but the team mattered, it was 9 out of 10 double important to me and making sure that we can create a great environment for us to thrive together, first and foremost. I think for other founders that are either considering selling their company or looking to either acquire other companies, it's like, how well do you get along, right? Like startups are immensely difficult. And so I think when it comes to bringing people who've gone through that startup journey, especially an early stage team that's gone through that startup journey, right? They understand things like tenacity and grit and perseverance. I think that matters a ton as well. Like we're in a, Clarify's in an extremely crowded category. It's probably one of the hardest categories for us to go tackle. But for me, that, that excites me. And yeah, I definitely want to have people like Nick on the team who are excited by the opportunity as well. So yeah, those are the things that I looked for, kind of during the last few months as we've been working closely together.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. First question to me is, what's your team's culture? That's it. Like we didn't talk about where Seam was, what we were thinking. Like Patrick literally called me. He's like, "What's the culture of your team?" So he set that tone immediately on the call.
What are you all excited about? And this is to both of you about taking the best of what Seam has built over the last 18 months with AI-native ABM, taking the best of what it means to have agentic kind of flexible autonomous sort of CRM platform. What are you all excited about the value you both can create based off of the platform that's going to come together?
Go ahead, Nick. You want to lead us off?
Yeah, and
I know you're just getting into the fold
no,
here.
I don't want to be too much of a broken record, but I can share two things. One from like the product vision perspective, like really like a CRM has always just been a line item on something you need to purchase to manage your deals. Like no one has ever thought about, is there a world where the CRM can generate us money? And I like to think of like value accrual kind of in three ways. Like one, are you saving me like the most valuable things when you can demand whatever price you want when selling to a customer are kind of in three different levels. First, is this thing like saving me time? productivity. That's the weakest value prop. Second, is this thing saving me money? Okay, like is it like okay, cool, like you've increased my productivity, now you're saving me money. Third is, can you enable me to do something I've never done before? And if you can hit that level 3 of value creation, I can enable you to do something that's never been done before. You'll pay whatever you want for. You can charge, and people will pay whatever you want for something like that. So I think like what we are getting to together is that level 3. The CRM that can bring business to us. And I'm excited because that has implications up market, has implications down market. So for me, I can't be more stoked on what we're doing with the product. And then personally, I think Patrick and I bring 2 really great personalities together. You know what I mean? Like Patrick is, S tier product thinker. Like he's a visionary in terms of how he builds and creates products. And I've really gotten to be, kind of a really great distribution mind with the product. So I think we're going to do 2 really magical things over the next 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And the nice about working with other founders is you can wear many hats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think I'm super excited about this partnership. I think it's going to be amazing for customers that are looking to transform the way that they go to market, and I think you guys are going to be building amazing solutions and with immense new value. As we reflect, I know we have a few minutes here. Going back to sort of the founder journey. Now that a few years in, here part of Clarify, a lot of founders are kind of going through this journey. They're going through the messiness, going through the pivots. They're kind of evaluating, like, what's one thing you know now that when you start pitch VCs that you wish you'd known like when you just got started with Signal and your first iteration of Scene?
Are you asking so directly about VC pitching?
Yeah, just about VC specific. A lot of founders that are listening to this first pitch, like they're always trying to ask us, like, hey, I'm pitching VC. What do you think of X?
Right. Let me think about this for a quick second. I really liked how you actually framed this at the beginning, and it's much of the same advice that I give when talking to our founders. Okay, you got to go after a big market. You got to be the right person to go after a big market from a founder market fit. Your idea has to make sense. But in today's day and age, Patrick mentioned this as well. It's like it's very easy to build software. A lot of people can have the same ideas, and that friction to continue to build stuff is only going to go down. So you framed it as like, what is the unique insight that you have as a founder? And I've had that pitched to me and framed in different ways a lot, but I really think that early stage folks raising money need to embody that. What do you know that the rest of the market doesn't know? That can be an experience that I had at Okta. That could be a conversation I had with Patrick. That inspiration can come from anywhere, but like, if you're going to sell text to SQL, which everybody has text to SQL and anyone can build a chat with your data tool, like what's the unique insight? And ours was that, the data and the context really mattered and that someday that was going to enable the builders. So I think that's what I would be honed on a ton when you're first early fundraising is like, what is that insight?
Love it. Love it.
I was going to say, Nick, the only other thing that we really didn't talk about a bunch was kind of this like evolution of the modern data stack. 'Cause I think we both have pretty strong perspectives on this as well, as far as an enablement of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's you and I have been data practitioners, back to the original question, you used to be a data engineer. Do you still think of yourself as a data engineer? I kind of do. Yeah.
Yeah.
What matters now?
Well, so I know, Nick, we're wrapping this up now, but last thing, parting words for other founders, what advice would you give them thinking about starting their founder journey?
Yeah, I think, you always get the traditional move fast, listen to your customer, that stuff all, yes. But the kind of the theme of this entire conversation that I really definitely want to end with is be very strict on the vision, very loose on the details. People get too locked in on the initial idea being the right thing, and then they never get to achieve their vision. Is kind of one thing. And then the second thing I didn't really bring up, but it pertains to us, is like when I first started being a founder, I would have said in acquisitions, like not the outcome I wanted, which is funny because now going through it with you, I can't think of a better outcome, right? So I would definitely, yes, everyone wants to raise the $100, $200 million, but sometimes to win a market, you got to go at it with good people and you got to go at it together. And, it might make sense to merge and be acquired. So keep that in the back of your mind as well.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. If anybody wants to reach out, nick@clarify.ai, obviously. And excited to have you on the team, man.
Yeah, likewise. I can't wait to build with you, man.
Of course.
All right. Thanks, Nick.